Hello, good morning. Hope you're having a great day. Buenos dias, guten Tag to our German audience. We're going to be there in a couple of months for one of our next Service Journey Day activities. And thank you for joining today's podcast of our in-service series. We have Cole Sutter, who's the Vice President of Global Customer Success at Syncron, who's going to be joining us in talking about this very important topic, which is unlocking profit through parts strategy. Thank you for joining us, Cole. We'll get to a formal introduction of you in a second. And to our audience, why are we even talking about this? And there's two big trends that we're bringing up during our symposium this coming September 8th through the 10th in Chicago, as we think of what is next for service and what are the things where we perhaps need to rethink some of the long-held assumptions, where there's some new opportunities for driving efficiency, for uncovering value across the different stakeholders. And one of them is the places where the service chain is still very disconnected in places that matter. All these links between functional areas where data that is collected in one and could be beneficial to the other is not getting across, and we're still solving for local objectives, for incentives that do not span across service parts to remote support to the field service. The other is moving on offense. As we think about many of these functional areas, the underlying message has been don't mess it up, particularly true for service parts. You got to make sure that service parts are available because otherwise everything goes down. But not always has it been seen as a lever for driving profitability, for driving better business, for improving the relationships with the customer. And overall, we see this trend, and we've been speaking to it as moving on offense on service parts. And that is why we believe this unlocking the profit and rethinking the ways in which service parts can connect to the overall strategy is such a pertinent topic to get into today. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into all of that. As you know, today's podcast is being recorded, so you can go back to it, revisit, share with your colleagues. We also like you to be a participating audience. So if you have any comments, please drop them on the chat on LinkedIn. We'll try to get to them, respond promptly either during the podcast, or we'll be following up on that. And without further ado, I should introduce myself first, which I didn't do at the top. Gerardo Pelayo, the Vice President of Research and Advisory at ServiceCouncil. And I'm so excited to welcome Cole that I forgot to talk about myself. So, Cole, why don't you follow that? It's been great knowing you so far, but why don't you share with the audience a little bit about yourself, your background, and your role at Syncron?
Yeah, sure. And thank you so much for having me. So yeah, my name's Cole Sutter. I've built my career in the service and operations space. I've been at Syncron a little over 7 years, and I've been fortunate to wear many hats over the course of this time. Everything from implementing our software to being a customer success manager to leading product operations, the chief of staff, and then now leading customer success. And the journey's kind of given me a different aspect and a view on kind of how we solve customer problems and the solutions that we drive and the value we are able to deliver. On a personal side, I'm based in Chicago. I have an industrial engineering degree from Georgia Tech and got my MBA from the University of Chicago. And outside of work, I enjoy playing golf, working out, and spending time with my wife and friends. So yeah,
Love it, love it. Thank you, Cole, and a fellow industrial engineer. So always good
yeah,
to find support there. And if I could double click on some of that, can you also expand on what is the relationship that Syncron has with your customers? Where do you add value? Where do you insert yourself within the space?
yeah. So a little bit of background on exactly what I do and kind of then the customers that we serve. So Again, I'm currently the VP of Global Customer Success, which means I'm responsible for ensuring our customers achieve value and renew their partnerships with us. My team focuses on aligning Syncron solutions with customer goals and really being that trusted advisor to the customer. It's really cool to see how one tweak in the process or better use of data can make a huge difference in uptime or customer satisfaction. And as an industrial engineer, like you said, that stuff really gets you excited. And Syncron as a company, we specialize in the aftermarket service space. So in plain terms, we help OEMs, distributors, dealers manage spare parts. The core areas we work on are pricing, parts planning, warranty, contract price, and technician enablement. We work mainly with industries like automotive, industrial machinery, construction and mining, and agriculture. And our aftermarket intelligence platform is all about increasing after sales profitability and product uptime, which ultimately helps our customers increase satisfaction to their end customers, right? So I like to say, for us, people don't just buy Syncron because we have great software. They buy because of our expertise and commitment to
Mm.
parts and service.
And that's great, and it's a good segue for where I wanted to start this conversation because just last month we were at we were at the Gillette Stadium uh, in the New England area. We had
Mhm.
one of our service journey days where Daktronics hosted the event, talking about remote support and field service. And one of the participants said, "Well, has anybody actually gotten into service and the whole P&L conversation without having service parts as a component of that?" Because, and his claim was, service parts is the element that actually brings the P to P&L.
Mhm.
And there, the data tells a story towards that. We check with our community every year on the service leaders agenda at the start of the calendar. And very interesting how the objectives are shifting. We saw that for those that are not prioritizing improvements around service parts, half of them, 55%, were thinking about increasing their profit margins. But for those that are thinking about service parts management as a key area that needs to step up, 80% also had higher targets from a revenue and from a margin perspective. So very strong correlation that we're seeing there, which is something that I'm happy to see. The acknowledgement of service parts. Is this something that you would agree with, Cole, that service parts puts a lot of the P in the P&L conversation?
Yeah, I mean, such a great question because I think it's not well understood by many not in the service space, right? Um, Service parts and after sales service are major profit drivers, right? And it's often surpassing the profits from selling the original equipment. Um, I read a stat recently that aftermarket services typically achieve margins at least 2x those of the new product sales, and in some cases it can reach up to 10x. And many manufacturers earn 40 to 50% of the total profits from the services, while the new equipment sale may only break even. So we are seeing a strong correlation between customers prioritizing parts management and business growth. So, I mean, getting the right parts to the right place at the right time and at the right price unlocks multiple revenue opportunities, right? I mean, faster repairs and reduced downtime to keep the customer coming back for the service, higher customer loyalty leading to additional equipment sales, the ability to offer new uptime or performance guarantees. And I mean, ultimately, it's about building trust with your end customer so that they remain loyal. So, absolutely, I agree that service parts, I mean, uh, it puts the P in the P&L for sure.
Yeah, and I have a follow up on those examples that you're bringing to the conversation, because if we start breaking down the data, then we look at what is the persona, what is the primary intent that the service leaders were trying to impact during the 2025, and whether that is the customer experience, the frontline experience, or the business financial outputs. For that last group, those that are focusing on the making an impact on the business experience, the number one focus area is customer retention and growth. But very closely behind, we have service parts management as that critical area to improve their financial metrics. Now, the moment that could give us a little bit of pause is that historically, a lot of these efforts have actually been focused on cost reduction and cost optimization, and how do I reduce my inventory. And the examples that you were starting to bring up in the conversation are not always translating from the concept and the theory into the larger initiatives. So, from your experience, I'd like to know what are the business opportunities that you believe most often fall under the radar that could be enabled by service parts, but still remain hidden?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I mean, there's quite a lot of things I could probably talk about here, but when you ask this, it brings up a recent customer conversation actually that I have that I think is kind of relevant that I can walk you through some of those cases. I mean, one area we discussed was leveraging service parts consumption data to set prices and design offers.
Mm.
Parts consumption data tells you time criticality and consequence of failure, which are perfect inputs for pricing algorithms, right? So customers are willing to accept higher prices for parts if you decrease downtime. So while commodity items stay competitive, you're still able to protect share and margin simultaneously. Um, Another area is life cycle based pricing. So adjusting spare part or extended warranty prices by the equipment life stage or criticality. I mean, this is the topic that we're talking about with a lot of customers and looking at how we can bring in additional data into our aftermarket intelligence platform to better, calculate how we can price depending on where the part is in the life cycle and do that in a better way and drive more profitability. Um, and of course, there's always, value-based pricing, charging according to the customer value delivered, which again is kind of back to some of the points I mentioned. And then one other one is the cost of the service contract, right? So understanding the cost of service and the parts to better price service contracts. So those are just a few examples. I mean, there are quite a few others that we could probably go through, but that's just a few that kind of came to mind from some recent conversations.
Yeah, I think they're very relevant, and the underlying theme that I extract from that is a shift from the transactional relationship of selling parts to more of a true partnership, where,
Hmm.
as you called out, it's about the uptime, and it's about using the data that you have access to in order to influence the decisions, both from a business perspective, the pricing of the parts, but also the operational consequences that translate into the customer experience. And that piece is something that I actually also want to get into, because I said that first group looking at business experience, for the ones that are service leaders focusing on the customer experience as their main goal, service parts is not as high in the ranking. It's actually number 4 in terms of the focus areas, and far behind the top response. 28% are looking at service parts, whereas 54% are looking at customer retention and growth. So I connect to the use cases and the potential that you were talking about. Can you perhaps share some of the best practices, the elements that have led to successfully operationalizing some of these concepts of connecting the data on one side, um, so that service parts can start moving towards that different role, or that more uh, proactive role in shaping the customer experience?
Yeah, and that the point you made about moving from, transactional to more of a partnership, I think is key here. I think that is one of the fundamental things that everybody needs to understand. I mean, customers judge service not just by the courtesy of the technician or the capability of your product, but really by whether the problem is resolved quickly, right? So if you don't have the part, there's no fix that's going to happen. So resolution speed defines the satisfaction. So for the majority of our customers, the asset they sold to the end customer and the end customer is bringing back for the service is the revenue enabler for the end customer. So for example, one of our customers is a large trucking manufacturer. If you think about their end customer as the truck driver, that driver's ability to make money is dependent on that truck being on the road. They can't afford to wait for service. Same for customers in the agriculture space. The end customer could be the farmer. Not having a part could make them lose the ability to harvest at the right time if they're not able to get the right part. Another cool example from a customer I recently talked to. We work with a major auto OEM who has made the guarantee to get a part to a dealer in 30 minutes or less to ensure excellent customer service. And that kind of started as a customer service initiative for spare parts and has turned into a huge competitive advantage for them. And we're super proud of the value that we're able to drive to our customers and the things that we're able to do by looking at optimizing and providing better customer experience. I think the bottom line, I mean, parts management is the hidden hero of the customer experience. It's the bread and butter, bread and butter. It's quiet, but it's essential to consistently meeting or exceeding the customer's expectations. And again, similar to what I said earlier, for manufacturers, the initial sale only represents 20 to 30% of the lifetime revenue. So that remaining 70 to 80% comes from the aftermarket service. So by providing that great customer experience, there's a true impact to your business.
Yeah, there's definitely that long tail that if we look at the other side of the experience, when the part doesn't make it there, when you don't proactively anticipate or send the right part and they're losing money, that's revenue that you're gonna miss, not for that event, but in the entire relationship with the customer. And an implicit part of that experience, I believe, is trust as well. Trust with the customer. I feel it every time I take my car to the mechanic. uh, Shame on me, I know close to nothing about what's going on under the hood, and there's always this uncertainty of well, do I really need this, or are they just trying to sell something out of it? The moment the mechanic commits to, hey, I'll make sure that your car is running smoothly, as opposed to, yeah, you need to rotate and balance and change the brakes and so on. That is a completely different relationship in terms of trust. Are they focused on my outcome, or are they focused on my near term revenue? And I
Yeah.
like how you explained how the data that is available is helping to make these decisions quickly enough to be able to operationally fulfill against that trust, and therefore build that customer relationship, build that customer growth, leverage the potential for revenue. So you inspired a lot of the I thinking out loud, but um, I really like it as the dots start to connect to one another. And I brought up the whole defense to offense um, theme, perhaps in the conversation earlier. And one of the biggest examples I believe is when you can look at the available inventory and the historical service events and use that to shape some of the demand. Um, Applying this kind of proactive mindset to the customer experience, do you see this role of service parts? Do you see it changing? Do you see it expanding, especially amongst perhaps some differences between the top performers and the rest, that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, it's been interesting to kind of see the evolution over the time at Syncron. I mean, it customers have really evolved a lot over the past, let's say, 10 years, and how they have focused on spare parts. I think there are quite a few customers that we're seeing that are doing a really good job to start moving more to this offensive approach, right? I mean, spare parts management was always kind of reactive. You hold your inventory, respond when something breaks, you minimize the downtime, and you move on. But as you said, the goal is to get ahead of the service event, right? You want to be predicting when that service event's going to happen, so you already have what's needed when it occurs. So no one does this perfectly yet, right? I mean, this is something that, and I don't think anybody will ever do it perfectly, but there's tons of ways you can improve it, right? And every customer that we're working with is trying to figure this out, and they're just at different stages along that life cycle of kind of moving from that defensive to offensive approach. But I think the big thing is customers have so much more data now on their assets, right? They have all this data that they're collecting on the assets, and they don't necessarily know how to make sense of it all, right? And they need to use this data to enable them to go on offense. And this is something that we're helping a lot of our customers do with our aftermarket intelligence platform by enabling customers to better use this data to plan parts, price parts, and perform the service. Now, I think another thing that people, get sometimes caught up on is, well, is that aftermarket intelligence that you're using, is it AI ML, or is it a statistical model, or what is it? And I think what's key is a lot of what we are doing is looking at how we can provide the best solutions with the data that you have. And we are looking at a lot of different ways AI and ML can be applied to that. And we've already applied some of that with our customers. But I think it's
Mhm.
important when people think about this to not get too caught up in, oh, is it AI or is it ML? But is it solving the traditional problem? Because these problems don't necessarily change. It's just that we're solving them in better ways. And AI and ML is really just an enabler to solve big data problems faster, right? And so I think I know that's a question that a lot of people have asked, and I think it's just important to, you know, focus on what is the problem I'm trying to solve, what is the data really telling me, and
Mhm.
focus on how can AI ML, is there enablement that it can use, and that's where we're trying to bring those cases or those solutions to our customers, where it's applicable and makes sense.
Yeah.
And honestly, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, no, no. Please finish your
Uh,
thought.
I was gonna say, I mean, honestly, I think this is what makes me so excited about being in this space. And I think, people say, oh, you're in the service space, it must be, kind of a slow space. No, I think there is so much opportunity and so much, change occurring. And the competitive advantage for our customers is really about the proactive parts availability and driving that deeper loyalty. And spare parts are really evolving from the cost of doing business to a relationship asset and a key tool for customer retention and long-term value creation.
Yeah. And a couple of reactions. The first one, whoever said that service should be slow and boring has definitely not spent a day in service. It's everything but. Now we can argue about how exciting that is and all, but it's definitely not slow. And on a more serious note, what you were saying really resonates with me. And part of the evidence to that in the symposium that we have coming up, and I know Syncron's going to be there. Thank you for continuing to support the community and advance those conversations. But it's a 3-day event, and day one, we're focusing it on purpose because there's so many possibilities out there and so many directions that service leaders can take that we don't want to lose sight of, hey, what is it that we're actually trying to achieve? And in order to inform that conversation, there's two elements. One is from a data and technology perspective, how do we move from the art of the possible towards the art of the relevant, which is, in a nutshell, I believe, what you fleshed out. We got to understand where does it fit and how to be smart around that being faster and being achieving scale in a more efficient way. The other piece that you also brought up, that I want to emphasize is there's a stronger there's more data than the one that is being taken advantage of. We said sometimes that the data, worst case scenario, it's available but not trusted or very hard to access, and therefore it just goes there to die. And then there's places where that data foundation is in a more mature stage, but still the mechanisms to translate that data into intelligence are not as mature. That is a pain point that we hear in our voice of the field service engineer and the voice of the frontline. The time spent to look for data that would provide the information across all the different needs, including spare parts. What is the availability? Who? Where is the stock available? Can I transfer some of my parts from a colleague? All of that still a painful process to get to the intelligence. Even more so when we elevate it to the strategic perspective and the design of the network. So I would agree that these are key pitfalls to avoid, if you will. There's a couple of points that I would like to get into before we run out of time, though, and we've been talking a lot about the possibilities and and it's exciting, and the potential for revenue, and sometimes that can be misconstrued as we got to get more contracts, and when we do that, automatically profit's gonna go up. If I could draw a parallel between what we were just talking about, too much data doesn't automatically translate into a lot of intelligence. And similarly, having more contracts could be just a very efficient and scalable way of losing money if you don't set them up correctly. So, do you have any advice, any lessons learned, any practices that that you're applying yourselves, perhaps, on how to approach this in an intelligent manner, the design of the contracts to support the revenue and profit tracks?
Yeah, this is a great question. So, I mean, service contracts are not automatic profit engines for sure. So, I mean, we talk to a lot of customers that are looking backwards and chasing the performance of the contracts, right? And this is super tough to do mid-flight when you've already committed. You can't go back and renegotiate that contract. So, poorly designed agreements can become liabilities if your true costs and your risks are underestimated. I read an article from McKinsey recently that said, manufacturers that launched sophisticated aftermarket offerings without aligning them to strategy or capabilities failed to capture expected value. So to do this properly, you need to integrate the service contract management with parts planning, with supply chain teams, et cetera, to ensure that the commitments are feasible and that they remain profitable. So we're spending a lot of time with our customers, working with them to get their costs together, to put the proper cost prediction, uh, you know, into our service contract price solution, right? Because you have to know what all those variables are. And the next step of this is looking at pricing these and being able to respond to the customer needs faster when they want more flexibility. A customer may want a contract with 6,000 service hours when the standard has always been 5,000, or needing to run a forklift in a freezer. I mean, it sounds funny, but that's an applicable case that we've heard. And so the end customer wants the flexibility to solve the specific cases that they have, and they don't want to settle for the one size fits all. So I think those that can provide that flexibility, but that can do it in a way that is data driven and that truly understands the different cost variables have truly a competitive advantage.
Yeah, love it. And the when we think about being proactive, this is an area that I think is underserved. Proactively
Mhm.
thinking about the send of these contracts and capturing the voice of the customer, not just collecting the data on it, but truly leveraging the examples that you brought up, are a great reflection of that. Of how do you know what they care about, and how do you make the decision of is it something that makes sense, and how do we need to prepare ourselves internally. So thank you for that. And the last thing that I want to get into is, we've talked about service parts driving the profit. You mentioned it's the unsung hero of so many things in service, and it influences that. It influences the customer experience. We haven't touched on the third leg of the stool from my perspective, which is the frontline
Mhm.
experience, and critical topic. Service leaders, year after year, talent availability, talent shortage is continues to come up, either because of retirement or because of incentives that are not not sorry, because the people are leaving the career. and and the question is, can service parts play a role in shaping what the frontline experience looks like? Whether it's in preventing people from leaving because hiring and training, the risk of the customer experience when your talented people leave because they get so frustrated that the right part is not available, that the part that they get sent is the wrong one, that like all of these situations that you probably come across in your conversations with the customers. So, what is your take on that? How would a better integrated management of service parts, can it really move the needle from a talent experience perspective?
Yeah, and you know, we used to see, I mean, to the point you made, like we used to see a lot of, these long time parts and service people. You used to have the technician that had been at the company for 30 years, or the parts planning guy that knew everything you could possibly know about every customer and dealer, or the lifelong pricing manager. And we really don't see this as much anymore. And our customers are looking for better tools and enablement. They need to know that they're still going to be able to get the same service to the customer, be as effective, if not more, and provide that seamless knowledge transfer to the person, regardless of their tenure, right? And an example of this is one of the large agriculture equipment manufacturers that we work with that went through many years of M&A and attrition. I mean, they went through over 15 acquisitions over a course of a very short period of time, and had a ton of attrition of their technicians. And we were able to use our technician enablement solution to bring a lot of this information together and help the technician with onboarding and get the technicians up to speed to do their job quickly and be able to get that first time fix where they need it, and being able to be effective, right? I think the other part of this that people need to consider is the end customer expectation, right? For service, I believe is much higher now, right? We live in a very fast moving world where people expect things instantly. And your frontline worker needs to have the tools that allow them to serve the customers to the standard. And nobody goes to work and wants to deal with unhappy customers all the time and feeling like they don't know how to do their job. So I think it's also a matter of, you have to enable them with the right tools, and to make them successful so they can ultimately make the customer successful. And a lot of this is about having the right parts and being able to fulfill that fix, right? I said earlier, no part, no fix. So you got to have those things. You have to have those parts when it's the right time, and you have to enable them. So having the right part at the right place at the right time for the right price will increase your employee satisfaction, your customer satisfaction, and drive profit. So, I mean, to me, just from what I've seen, I think integrated parts management is not only just an operational win, it's an employee experience win that
Hmm.
retains skilled people, and it underpins customer and business success.
Yeah, fully agree. And um, to put a corollary on that, put some data behind it. The first time fix misses due to parts in our 2025 state of service parts research said that, I'm pulling the data point here. Over 40% of first time misses were due to parts, uh, and and there's an additional 41% of service supply chain leaders that are not even tracking how part availability and sending the right part is influencing the first time fix experience, which gets into the friction with the frontline, gets into the customer experience, and ultimately the revenue that we've been talking about. So thank you for so eloquently connecting the dots for us, sharing all these stories. I'm sure it's been a very informative conversation for the audience here. Before I let you go, you've shared so much from a business perspective. Would love to learn a little bit more from a personal perspective. Is there something that you'd like to share with the audience? Perhaps a passion project, something that you're looking forward in the near term?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, thank you so much for having me on today. It was really a pleasure and learned a lot just hearing some of the things that you added. And yeah, I mean, I think my wife and I have a trip planned in September to go to Iceland to finally, hopefully, crossing my fingers, wishing for some good luck here to see the Northern Lights. It's been a kind of something that we've talked about since we met, so that's something I'm really looking forward to. That's coming up.
That's that sounds very, very exciting. I wish you best of luck for that. There's a lot of things that have to come together, but a lot of people I get it. So even if Iceland's a great place to visit, so hope that goes great. Today's podcast definitely was, and just a reminder for our audience, today's conversation was recorded. It will be available for you to go and revisit on everywhere everywhere you go and listen to this, from Spotify, especially all of our resources, our website, our LinkedIn page. Thank you so much. Looking forward to see you again in a couple of weeks' time. Cole, once again, thank you. Have a great week, everybody.